ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Omni Unity Channel with Sue Walker and the Ponte Star Nation people. Welcome, Sue.
Hi. It's just been so long since we've chatted. I am
Yeah.
so glad to be back. When you wrote, I thought, oh my goodness, we need to get caught up with Francois and the English French speaking community here.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think it was December 2019, the last interview.
Yes,
So, yeah.
before we knew of all of the falderall with this pandemic.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So, ladies and gentlemen, Sue has a large bio, Sue Walker. So please visit our previous interview where she actually shares her bio. The reason for that is that we want to save time, and there's a lot of information that Sue wants to share with us right now, many updates. So what I would like to ask is to Sue, if you can share with us any updates that you want to share that hasn't been shared the last time we spoke to you, that you like to share with the audience.
And we had a big one this week. One of the latest, biggest updates in quite a few years. The Ponte have been under a 50-year treaty that was signed in 1971 by a number of countries here on our world, as well as a number of star nations connected with the Federation. When they signed that treaty, they agreed to not providing photographs or video or technology to other Earth humans. And they stuck by it, which was part of the reason that our friend Commander Tilcomb asked me to begin sketching them or doing portraits of them. That 50-year treaty ended the 25th, 26th of this week, within the last 48 hours. And the Ponte have since then informed us that there will be a slow but steady increase, not only in sightings of ships, but also individuals on the ground that are visiting. You will see them also captured on camera far more than you ever used to. And other star nations around the planet who also signed that treaty will likewise be allowing their ships to be seen more and more as we approach official first contact, which is sometime between the fall equinox and the winter solstice this year, within a month to 4 months. So we're waiting to see what they're going to do with all of that. But they've been teasing us and hinting at us for weeks now that a couple of the staff members of the Sandia Mountain Information Station are wanting to pull a few photo pranks. I expect them to walk in front of some cameras unannounced and see what the camera operators and things say. But they have all of their fleet out now. Normally, during the day, we see them mostly sleeping, and most of the ships are back at the hangar. However, they have been instructed to go visiting 24/7 right now, and all over the world, and especially in their jurisdiction of the northern and western hemispheres. That retraction, or not having to deal with avoiding cameras, puts them a little bit more at ease, because right now you can imagine cameras are everywhere, whether it's on the dashboard of your car or attached to a building for security purposes, or somebody's carrying a phone in their pocket kind of thing. Cameras are everywhere. So we shared what Tilcomb asked us to share about the treaty being over. But in one way, the Ponte have breathed a sigh of relief. In another way, they know that this fall they're ramping up their visitation schedule, because their popularity on Twitter has taken a huge jump. Just even in the last 24 hours, we've gained 2,000 followers in
Wow.
a little bit more than 24 hours since the tweet of one of their skipper ships with the peace sign on the side of it has gone out onto Twitter. So if you have that image, we'll show folks what we mean if they haven't seen it. So that's new. We're still waiting for more details from Tilcom about how they're going to pull off official first contact. And it's not up to him, because the Ponti are just one of many nations that want to be in Earth's official first contact, but they're not in charge of it, just so that everyone understands. They're not the lead nation. The Federation has the final say. So
And
anyway,
just
that's the new stuff.
yeah, it's so nice that you share with that. There's so much. I mean, that's a lot. That's very cool.
It was huge, yeah.
And it's just that, but the um, the official first contact, the 50 years ago, known by the Desert Accord. Did he talk more about how this came about in the 70s? Why did this came about, this accord that they have the humans?
No, I never heard who originated the request of the Desert Accord. I don't know if there was a prior signing that just involved the United States and they wanted more people involved. I don't know if the UMO in Europe initiated things. I'm not sure about that. And so I'll just have to be honest and say, I don't know how it got started. We simply know the time frame of the signing and a few of the images of the other star nations involved.
Well, thank
Most
you.
of them land-based.
Well, I've just put up the Twitter post that you had about that beautiful art that you did of that peace sign in the trees. Can you explain to us how this came about, how you came about to create this?
Sometimes when I sit down with a sketch pad, I have no idea what I'm going to sketch until I hear from them. And this particular day, I happened to be finishing up detailing, drawing eyes. And so I flipped open a new page, and I work with black paper and pastel chalk pencils, and started to draw an oval shape with a circle in the center, kind of like you would see the beginning stages of drawing an eyeball. But instead, it turned out to be one of their small skipper ships, which is the size of a small plane, holds a crew of about 6. They had me draw this skipper ship and had been instructing me how to draw things that were caught in reflection, like reflection in a mirror or reflection in curved glass. And in the process of doing that, I ended up just simply drawing the skipper ship, and the circle in the middle became a peace sign. It sat that way for a month, with a circle in an oval that was a peace sign. And I knew that they had something in mind for it, but I didn't know what. And so it sat on my art altar for a long time. And finally, 2 days ago, I was prompted to pick up the beginning rough draft of that oval with the peace sign in the middle of it and add the other details of trees and night sky and something beneath them in reflection. And I still didn't know what they wanted to do with it or how they wanted it shared. And so ended up going into the house and fixing supper, and came out and sat down with my sketch pad again, and Tilcom piped up and said, we would like these words shared with this image. And that's when they announced that the treaty had finally officially come to an end, and that their plan was to continue teaching from the Twitter site in order to prepare Earth humans for the soon upcoming official first contact. And so I just typed exactly what he said in. As soon as I read it back to him and asked for any corrections, because sometimes they do, the tweet went out, and it has become the most well-received tweet and shared tweet that they've put out since the Twitter account began. I checked, this morning, 6 o'clock this morning, and was up to like 42,000 impressions from sharing that image and Tilcom's words. And it's still going. It's still very, very popular. So that's the history of how this particular sketch came about and why it looks the way it looks.
That's really awesome. It just shows you that people are really, really resonating with the Ponti, and it's really nice to see that, to have that understanding. Is that before we proceed with the interview, maybe we can do like a quick recap of who are they and who are they not. So I did a little screenshot for someone else's presentation. I'm going to bring it up here.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe you can go over with us here, just with the listeners here. So this can be like a very summarizing, and you can elaborate on that, who they are versus what they're not. So, yeah, can you please just share with us your thoughts on the Ponti?
And for some reason, the image that I had on the screen of you is gone.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what's happened to it.
Okay, what I can do is I can read to you. It's basically, it says that, first of all, it basically summarizes it. They are people. They're not aliens.
Right.
They're human too. Right?
Yes.
And it says there are many forms of human throughout the galaxies, which are primate human, aquatic human, feline human, bird human, insect human, reptilian human, etc. And then they say, finally, we need to broaden our definition of what it is to be human.
Yes.
So can you elaborate on that? Because they tend to be not very tall, 4 feet tall. And they're humanoid, but a little bit different than us, right? A little bit skinnier, larger cranium. Mm-hmm. And that puts fear in a lot of people when they see them.
If you honestly see how petite and thin and not like He-Man strong looking, I mean, they're not 8 foot tall like the Sasquatch are, or taller. They're these little short guys that come up to maybe your chest, 4.5 feet tall on average. The shortest I've seen is very close to 1 meter tall, which you can see is not very tall at all. But the Ponti have let us know, and in fact, one of the very first things that let us know is that they are human too. Among the explorers and Star Nation folks that visit Earth, a number of the land-based folks are human or a variation on the human theme. And that would include a lot of the Orion folks. It includes a number of the Pleiadian folks. It can include Arcturian folks. It includes the Zeta Reticuli folks. They all may look a little different, but all of them have one head. They're bipedal, 2 arms, 3, 4, 5, or 6 fingers, depending on the nation. And those nations, on average, most all of them communicate telepathically with each other. We're the exception in our telepathic skill set. For most of us is like this big, because we are unpracticed. We have all the hardware that we need in our brains. It's just using that innate ability and practicing it so that you're building up new and more neural pathway connections. You're learning to use that projection skill. And so the number of Terran walking or Earth walking nations The vast majority of them, kind of like Star Trek, if you think about it, are bipedal. Now, I have to qualify that because most of the star nations that come to visit our world are not here to visit us. They could care less about us, except for what we are doing to pollute our oceans. 75% of the nations that visit our planet do so because we're a water world and we have sentient life within our oceans, and they consider our whales to be legendary. So, that said, right now, of all of those land based um, people that look like us, only maybe different size head, different color hair, different color skin tone, different number of fingers, of all of those folks, 32 of them have voiced a desire to participate in Earth's upcoming official first contact. Have we met them all? No, we've met a lot of them, but not all of them. So we're as curious as you all are as to who all is coming to the party.
Yeah, it's a lot for a lot of people to understand
A lot to take in.
what's
Yeah.
coming our way, and there's something about maybe perhaps people will let you know, are they emotional beings, are they
Oh,
whole, because for example, are they genetic clones? That's the summary that I have here. It says no. Void of emotions, they said that telepathic communicators in emotional wavelength, so they are emotional beings, right?
oh
So,
yes. Oh,
oh, I-
the Ponte. All right. So first of all, I do want to qualify. We don't use the term gray when we talk about the shorter human type beings with the larger heads, the larger eyes, the second eyelid that makes it look like their eyes are black. Those are just their built in sunglasses that retract. That body type, we call it the Zeta body type, belongs to at least 5 different nations, and a number of those can interbreed with one another. So you have mixed uh, heritage. And so identifying which nation you're dealing with becomes a little more difficult unless you start to look at the differences and the nuances. If you look at the Ponte, they have a little bit of a nose cartilage, a button nose, we call it, and very thin lips, no ear cartilage usually, unless there's just a little bit of a ridge over an ear hole. And contrary to popular belief, instead of hairless, many of them do have kind of a peach fuzz sort of light hair covering. And the same with their eyelashes, just short, little, almost fuzzy, feathery eyelashes that aid them. So they are constantly reminding folks that you cannot lump all the Zeta body types into one category. And what we can tell you is that the Ponte's emotional makeup is very similar, very compatible with our own. Their humor is wonderful. They love word plays and double and triple entendres. Um, they communicate, when they communicate telepathically, you're right. You mentioned something about an emotional wave. The best description translation we can give you that they told us is that the telepathic input that they send from themselves to you travels on what they refer to as an emotional carrier wave. And so you experience or can feel what they feel at the time that they are projecting a ping or a hello to you telepathically. But we have found the Ponte to be just a wonderful first star nation to become introduced to in detail. Of all of the nations that visit Earth, the Ponti are considered neutral by the Federation. And so they don't pick a fight with anybody. And they are considered exemplary translators and liaisons for other star nations who want to come to Earth and need to ask questions of the folks at the information stations before they go do whatever they've come to this world to do. So oftentimes, as soon as a star nation enters into Earth's atmosphere, they're seeking out one of the information stations to get caught up on the latest. And that's everything from the Ponti will inform the other Earth human body types about our pandemic, because believe it or not, some of them are still susceptible to viruses. And while their medical expertise is advanced, not all bipedal human nations that visit us have the exact same advanced technology. Some of those nations wear self-contained suits like we do if we go out on a walk on the moon. Okay. We can't walk on the moon without a spacesuit. And some of them coming here cannot breathe our atmosphere and will show up in what looks like a containment suit. And some of them are our height, some of them are much taller. But human is a very broad catch-all term that applies not just to Earth humans. We're Earth humans. Sandia says they're Pontel humans. If you're from a planet in the Cygnus constellation, it would be your planet's name plus human. So there's a variation on the human theme all over this area of the galaxy. It's quite prevalent, to be honest.
Yes, it's very interesting to understand that we're not the only ones here. There's many other races that are in the local universe and even solar system, and this comes back to the way that they communicate between themselves. So telepathy is the most common language in the universe, would you say?
We asked them that very specific question, and their response was that gestural languages are more common even than telepathic languages. And so the nonverbal gestural can be understood across the spectrum by a number of nations. Telepathy came in second. Verbal communication came in third. Light language, as in I'm an aquatic creature and I create my own light patterns on the surface of my skin, if you want to call it that, would be next beneath the commonality of communication after verbal auditory languages.
And for the Sandia Mountain, basically they have a main headquarters, right? It's based in the U.S. They have other bases. So just the listeners understand where they are located. If they have only one basis or maybe ocean bases, or can you?
There are 4 aquatic Ponti managed information stations and 4 land-based information stations. I know that this morning or sometime within the last 24 hours, I guess it was last evening, that it was asked specifically of them, where are some of the other bases located at. We know that the Tasman Sea down by Australia has an aquatic station. We know that the very north end of the North Sea over by Europe, on Europe's western edge, has a station. We know that Pakistan in a rural part of the mountains has a station. We know that Myanmar also has a land-based station. And so I think we're missing Oh, and in the Indian Ocean, there is a group of islands called the Seychelles. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. On the off of the eastern edge of Africa, um, above Madagascar area, and to the east just a little bit. That's where the Seychelles are, kind of directly east of Egypt, sort of thing. If I can picture my map correctly. So we know the four aquatic bases. I know that there's one more land-based information station. I'm not quite sure where that fourth station is located. Um, when they identified the locations of the others for us, they were very specific, had me bring up Google Earth and pointed out the mountain or the location of the facility. Not exactly pointed out the entrances, but certainly pointed out the archeoplanetography or images in the landscape that indicated that a station was there.
And isn't that a danger to broadcast that information
Oh, sure.
where many government agencies,
Mm-hmm.
military, industrial complex may take
Mm-hmm.
advantage of that information to,
Sure. Sure.
or is it they're confident that with the other star nations that are coming online, they'll provide support and negate any type of negative rogue element that we have on the planet to neutralize that? Is that
Well, all right. So what I can tell you is if it's one of the land-based stations, at least the Sandia Mountain station runs 2 miles deep. There's not a whole lot that we can do from the surface that'll reach them down there. Okay. So they're fairly confident that they're protected. Um, I don't know about the other land-based stations. I do know that this station here on the eastern edge of Albuquerque, they specifically told us they retrofitted part of the ancient tunnel system that was already pre-existing from one of the last ages of man. And so they just took it over and uh, added what they needed to so that they could have a self-contained environment. And for those people who want to know, the Sandia Mountain is not affiliated with the Sandia National Labs. The Sandia National Labs, which is one of those hush hush government sort of agencies that you wonder what they're up to, is located 10 miles south of where our friends are in a mountain range south of the Sandia Mountains called the Manzanos. And so it's also on the eastern edge of the Albuquerque airport and the local Kirtland Air Force Base.
and having said that, they've been at the Sandia Mountain station since what, the last 10,000 years, would you say?
A little
So
more than that, more than
okay,
that. Since before the end of the last age of man, they were constructing or retrofitting that facility right before that. And so I know that the Ponti tell us that they have been in this area for around 15,000 years, and at least 12,500 of those, or 13,000, they've been at the Sandia station specifically. Prior to that, I get a little fuzzy whether or not they were in that facility or if they were up in, they've got a base up by Colorado Springs. Nikola Tesla, the inventor, had his laboratory up in Colorado Springs, and they used to chat with him. And
interesting, because that's the latest information was coming out, I think last year or 2 years, that Tesla was in touch with Star Nation people, and the
he
thing is that,
readily admitted it and said, I'm getting this from my extraterrestrial friends. Because he
but
was.
but what's interesting, now we know who now. We
Yes,
didn't know
right.
before. Now we know the Ponti were sharing that information with Tesla. Interesting,
Mm-hmm. The
interesting.
Ponti have more facilities here on Earth than just the information stations. You will find Ponte underground facilities in a number of places, but they are not dubbed as information stations for visiting star nations. And so if it's, let's say it's a Ponte underground facility up above the Canadian border in the Rockies, well, likely they're using that as a jumping off place to do whatever other research they are doing here on our world. So we know that the population of the information station is well above 200 now. We also know that they have satellite tunnel systems that connect to the main north-south tunnel system. And those satellite facilities, a good number of them run east to other small mountains on the eastern side of the Sandia. And beneath those mountains are self-contained facilities, so that if you came from a star nation that needed a specific kind of environment and different than what the Ponte have created for themselves beneath the Sandia, well, they can do that specialty environment in one of those satellite facilities. Normally they're shut down like you would see the wing of a building shut down when it's not in use. And right now they've opened them all up and are cleaning all of them in preparation for visiting star nations who want to come down here and be on land here prior to our official first contact.
So it's basically preparing guest rooms for other star
Yes,
nations.
you got it. You got it. Now, most star nations have their own facilities, have their own ships, and have their own places that they usually go stay. But if need be, if they have a need to, say, have a meeting of a number of star nations, then they have extra spaces connected with this north-south ancient tunnel system that they can go to and create a wing that can accommodate the visiting star nation's environmental needs.
It's just amazing having all this below our feet, and we don't even realize
Yeah.
there's so much life
That's
beneath the
become
earth.
true of Earth human technology now, too. Yeah, all the important stuff isn't above ground, it's beneath your feet somewhere.
Just amazing. And
Yeah.
Sue, do they have a location on the moon, on the base, where all star nations meet for meetings sometimes? On the dark side of the moon?
Is there a location underneath the Sandia Mountain where they usually meet?
No, on the moon, on the dark side of
Oh,
the
yes.
moon. Is
Oh,
there?
for sure. Oh, yeah. When Tilcom goes to the moon, he's always got side thoughts about, who's going to be there, what they're going to talk about, et cetera, et cetera. And so, yes, they have an underground, the Federation, not the Ponte. The Federation has an very large underground facility on the moon. And every once in a while, you see somebody with a very powerful telescope catching the comings and goings of either star nation ships or our Earth human created spacecraft from the moon. And you can see that I've seen videos done by amateur astronomers of one skipper ship going by, two skipper ships going by, three skipper ships going by, following one another, heading to a meeting, and you see the shadow following them on the moon's surface.
So are most of the important meetings at the lunar base?
It has to do with Federation business. Yes.
Okay. So basically all the benevolent star nations would meet on the moon for big meetings,
Typically, yes.
whatever that is.
Mm-hmm. Typically.
And having said that, will you foresee this in not too distant future that all these underground locations, aquatic or earth land based, will be a place for exchange with humanity, as a place for us to learn? And is it something they talked about maybe in not too distant future, or
I'm not sure that I can say that all of the star nations that visit our world are going to open up their underground facilities like you and I would open up our homes and have an open house, or bring in 100 people and teach them something. The more common thing that they would do instead would be to hold a large meeting in another location that's not one of the rooms at the Sandia Mountain Information Station. We have spoken with contactees who have remote viewed into the station or have woken up inside a room with extremely high ceilings and what appear to be polished rock walls, polished rock floor. And we do know that as individuals, not as groups, we have seen the Ponti take individuals to the station and then bring them back home. But to have a big meeting there, that would be more unusual.
so basically the plan is to actually have uh, many star nations coming together with Earth population and having like open auditorium type of lecture, or stadium, maybe large type of gathering or lecturing,
They
or
they have asked for essentially a place of information exchange and teaching after official first contact happens. That would be the equivalent of a university setting, and would like very much to hold classes by not only themselves, the Ponti, but other star nations would like to do so as well. And so they have spoken to us and showed us visual images of what they're looking for. And so we'll see what happens as far as university settings or other educational settings are concerned, as to what they'll do and how that will go about. I don't think that they would off the bat take you to the moon to learn, kind of thing. Not as a group, not yet.
what I meant is that the aim eventually of the Star Nation is to have this on-surface type of schooling, right? So an
Yes, it
open,
certainly is.
uh,
That is their desire, and it is what has worked on other worlds that had the Federation as an official first contact group. And after those planets, official first contacts, then teaching members moved in so that that planet can get brought up to speed about the history of their area of the galaxy that they don't know about. That's the one thing that they have harped on for us, because we have left our own planet, because we have journeyed not only to our moon, but also to the other planets in our solar system. Not all of them, but Venus, Mars. They are very concerned that they wish us to know and understand the history of all the star nations and interactions of those star nations with the Federation, so that they are able to sort out the right-minded folks from the wrong-minded folks. And when they meet a new star nation, know a little of that star nation's backstory.
yeah, I think there's a lot to catch up because according to Dr. Greer, we've actually are 100 years behind technology and consciousness. And so there's a lot to catch up to do in understanding. So having an open university setting would be a wonderful way to teach humanity on different subjects, different topics. And now having internet would be a lot easier. You don't have to fly over. You can actually That'd be wonderful to have this type of. And coming back to the main protocol of the Ponte for contact, it's important to share that is that they come from a place of causing no harm, no fear. Can you go over that just to summarize for?
I can. When the Ponte and their teams go leave the station and come to visit us, you in your home, me in my home, every single staff member or crew member follows a protocol, and the list is very easy to remember. um, the first priority is to cause no fear. They're not trying to scare you. They might look funny, they know that, but we look funny to them too. And they stress that we are not trying to frighten you. We really purposefully are not trying to frighten you. So cause no fear, do no harm. We don't want to hurt you either. And we know that if the Ponte ever accidentally injure anyone, they go above and beyond the call of duty in order to fix whatever injury took place. So cause no fear, do no harm. The last part of the protocol is leave no trace. When you leave after visiting someone in their home, we don't want you leaving anything behind that's detectable. Leave no trace. Leave it the way you found it. So that's the other part of the protocol that they stress with the new trainees that come wanting to learn how to visit Earth humans. What's the right way to do it? That's what the Ponte teach their trainee staff members. So cause no fear, do no harm, leave no trace. They make
And
mistakes. we've caught them at mistakes before, especially with the leave no trace part. But they don't do too bad with the cause no fear, do no harm. I have yet to learn of more than one. There's only one person I am aware of that was ever harmed accidentally by the Ponte. And when they realized what they'd done, they went above and beyond the call to fix the injury that they caused and gave that individual an immunity to bacteria and diseases and infections that would last the rest of his life.
you also mentioned they call it being suggested. Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean
Oh,
by
yes.
that?
Okay. So part of the cause no fear is they know they look strange to us. They really do. So, in order to not frighten you when you see them, telepathically, they kind of search your memories for an image of something or someone familiar to you that you would not be afraid of. And we call that screen memories. When they do that, you don't know if they're going to try and portray themselves as one of your old friends from high school that you haven't seen in a long, long time, or a giant bunny rabbit, or a owl, or a squirrel. I mean, they've chosen a number of different things to be screen memories. The being suggested part is part and parcel of them wanting to cause no fear, do no harm. And when I say being suggested, a telepathic nation will send a telepathic message to you in an alpha theta brainwave state. So you're in a light sleep state. Okay. You're not in deep delta sleep, but you're in a light sleep state. And in that state, you are suggestible, just like if a master hypnotist dropped you down into a hypnotic trance. Same idea. They know that if they place a suggestion in your mind when you are in that state, that you will tend to carry it out. So they call it being suggested. Real easy to remember. And that being suggested, it's kind of funny if they try and put out a screen image and give you a screen memory for, let's say, a giant bunny rabbit, and you see this giant bunny rabbit that's 4.5 feet tall standing in front of you, gray with great big almond eyes. If you look at it and say, "You're not a bunny rabbit," yeah, I know who you are. You're not a bunny rabbit. You might as well just drop the screen image. Sometimes they get so startled that you realize that what they're projecting isn't real. It's something they've taken from your mind. If you call them on it, sometimes they're so startled they're not quite sure what to do next, and they'll leave. Sometimes they drop that screen memory and try a different one just to see if another one would work. But if they know they're busted, if they know that you're already aware of who they are, then oftentimes they will double check to see, if I portray myself as myself, are you going to freak out on me? And so they'll test it. We had one Twitter follower who was given a screen memory of a very short, petite stormtrooper from Star Wars. And he looked at that individual. He says, "You're not a stormtrooper. Aren't you a little short to be a stormtrooper?" And suddenly the image changed from that to their Ponte face. And then a few seconds later, back to the stormtrooper, as if they weren't quite sure what to do next or how to handle the situation. So
it's basically is to lower down the fear level, right? To make sure that
so that you don't go screaming in terror into instant fight or flight, instant adrenaline rush, and hurt yourself or them. That's the whole reason for the screen memories. That's the whole reason for being suggested. The Sasquatch do it too. And if you're in the Sasquatch forest and you meet them, they can order you to sit down and stay there. They can suggest you need to go back to your car and drive back home. And some people kind of wake up halfway home going, "I was in the woods." What? And don't have any memory of the in-between time.
that's very interesting. But also we need to remember that the first contact for them and for us on both sides are quite nervous, not because they're Star Nation that they're not nervous, right? So can you elaborate why is it that they might feel nervous?
We're twice as big as they are, just about. I mean, we're not 9 feet tall, but the adrenaline that we possess, the strength that we possess, the weaponry that many individuals across the planet possess of whatever ilk, they have an understandable history of being shot at. Okay, if they portray themselves as themselves immediately while they enter your home at 2 o'clock in the morning. For most of us, if somebody comes into our bedroom at 2 o'clock in the morning, we think it's an intruder and somebody reaches for a weapon. So they're trying to avoid getting hurt. They're trying to avoid having any kind of a dangerous situation during their visits to us.
I think it's quite dangerous for them, even for them to leave their facility with the scout ships, because Earth humans have plasma weapons. They can shut their ships down. So they live in a very dangerous situation right now. It's people don't seem to realize how dangerous that is.
Oh, they know every time they leave the station, they're in danger. They're very aware that every time they take a skipper ship out, it can be a life or death situation. That said, they keep up on our technology pretty well. And in 17, replace their old fleet with a new fleet just to stay one step ahead. But um, even even then, um, because our new Space Force, bless their hearts, the folks that are volunteering to try and keep this planet protected and keep the common space and the moon and Mars protected, even our Space Force still relies on electronics to talk from ship to ship and not telepathy. So if they encounter a skipper ship or another telepathic nation's vessel, the first thing they do is try and hail them electronically, like the Star Nation ships all have radios. What? No. They also have not been trained to listen to the telepathic pings that they get from another individual. And when they hear voices in their head, don't mention it to anybody because they don't want to be perceived as crazy. Okay. So Star Nations automatically hail each other telepathically. Hi, who are you? Where are you from? Where are you going? And they can't do that to our military Space Force because it doesn't do any good yet. The Space Force has not been trained to listen and work with another nation telepathically yet. They just haven't.
And is it fair to say also that some of the Ponty craft have been hit some type of weaponry that affected their
Yeah, even they've even admitted that the Roswell crash was due to malfunction because our military was trying to find ways to bring down the German-made bell-shaped craft. And now I got to stop and think of the name of those.
oh, they call them the Hanabu craft?
Yes,
The
Hanabu. Thank you. So they were um, creating a mechanism, a way to bring down German Hanabu. Did not know that it would also bring down a Ponte skipper ship on its way back to the Sandia station. So it went down in Roswell. There was another one in the fields of, or the plains of San Augusta. There was a real crash 2 years before Roswell that was essentially internal malfunction. We know that, gosh, a couple years ago, there was a crash of one of the Ponte vessels that went down on the Oklahoma-Kansas border. And as soon as that went down, the Ponte let me know that they were shutting down communication with us, and they let us know when they were going to bring it back up. And that's exactly what happened. We didn't hear from them for days. They ended up destroying the ship and had 6 crew members injured, 5 of which recovered. The 6th had such severe injury that they were forced to take him back home, essentially, to live out the rest of his life with his family.
So you say when you take them back home, do they have teleportation devices, or they have to go there with another ship to go and retrieve?
Nope, they have to go on a ship.
I see. Okay.
Yep.
So do the party have like a mothership that can teleport from their mothership to, or they don't?
If they have it, they have not let us know.
Okay.
I do know that there is some way that they get from their skipper ships into our homes. I mean, I do know that much. How that happens, and if you want to call that a teleportation device, that's a fair question. And so I have never heard them refer to any kind of a mothership. I have never, whenever they go to the moon, they take a ship. They don't just teleport. So I'm guessing that that technology exists with them, but I don't know how often it's used versus the old fashioned climb into the sheet of a ship and head that way kind of thing. Don't know. So what else?
Sorry, I just unmuted myself. Sorry. So if whatever happens, they would actually go and rescue their crew with another scout ship. So
Yes, yes,
that's good.
they have emergency vehicles, just like we have emergency vehicles. They have emergency medical facilities, not here at the station, but elsewhere that are more advanced than the first aid bay that they have here at the station. Um, so, like any small business, they'll have the ability to do first aid with the people here. But if it's real serious, they'll take them elsewhere to be patched up or healed. They can only do so much here. It's like you don't expect your local physician's office to be able to cure you of everything and do an appendectomy right there in the office. That is not what happens. You have to go somewhere else if you need an appendectomy because it's a more serious procedure. So very similar. They can take care of small stuff.
Okay, so at least they take care of their injured and they bring
They
them
can.
back home.
They do have the ability to put their injured in stasis and take them elsewhere in stasis. I have heard that. But when somebody essentially is got brain injury, and while they can heal spinal cords and they can heal some injuries, there are some things that go beyond what they can do. So for that, they have to call in their experts, just like we have to call in our experts.
Somebody might as well ask. People may ask, well, do they have medical pods in there? They have that also. Okay.
They do. They have. They also talk to us about staying healthy by immersing themselves in a tank of nutrient solution that absorbs the skin. That's an amber color that we have come to call their dip tanks. And I think that procedure, that phrasing, comes from agriculture, where if you want to keep, let's say, a sheep free from insects, you would run them through a dip solution or immerse them. And it's the same way for the Ponti. Whenever they get back from a mission, they are required to make sure that they're not carrying anything back to the station. And so they head to the dip tanks and not only absorb the nutrients, but it takes care of the pathogens as well.
And that's something that maybe eventually they will share with humanity once everything is open. And
it would be fascinating. We only know of one individual who, the first time that they went to visit him in Florida, they took him on board their ship, and there was something that wasn't right, and so they took him to one of the facilities and let him soak in the dip tank. All right. When it was time to return him back home, they were trying to put him back to bed and realized that they didn't get all of the nutrient solution washed off of him. All right. As there was still a residue that was palpable and sticky. And so what happened instead is they had him take his clothes off. They put him in the bathtub. He laid down. They couldn't figure out how to work the drain. So they didn't know how to keep the water from going down the drain once they started filling the tub. Instead, they found a convenient solution. They put his heel in the drain of the tub and then filled it with cold water. And he didn't wake up and come to find his clothes and his shoes neatly folded beside him and laid out. He didn't come to until the water was up here to his nose. And then he woke up and went, why am I in a tub of cold water? Why is my heel in the drain? And who folded my clothes? Because he knew he didn't do it. So that was we've also had contactees wake up and they have an amber stain from the dip tank on their pillow because they had just a couple of residue drops in their ear, kind of like you still have water in your ear after you go swimming. And it came out as they laid their head on the pillow, and the evidence was right there. A number of people have saved those stains from their pillowcases in order to be able to have them tested later. So
It's
things
amazing.
that, yep, it's just
so there's a lot of
left behind.
there's a lot of evidence for people to understand that that's really happening. It's not something that's fictional, or it's just we have evidence across the board on the planet.
We have all kinds of evidence. Official First Contact is their website, and it is all about the things that they have shared with us. There's a documents page where people can download the essentially book that they wrote called the Telepathy 101 Primer. It's a PDF file, and now it's translated into more than a dozen languages across the world. On Official First Contact, you can see what they look like, but more than that, voluntarily, the contactees who invited the Ponte to their homes to receive a visit and who've gathered evidence of those visits, photographic, video, audio, doesn't matter. If they gathered evidence of their visit, they shared it on officialfirstcontact.com on the evidence page. So go up into the corner where the menu is on the first page of officialfirstcontact.com and follow down until you get to the evidence page, and you can hear what Tilcum sounds like. You can hear what radar whispered into a microphone. By the way, while they can't talk, they do have vocal cords that do work, but they squeak and they sound funny and it's not practiced. So instead, they whisper. Any mouth sound you can make that does not require vocal cords, they can make. So it's a mouth sound, right? Or is another mouth sound. But whispering also does not require vocal cords in any way. So
That's
we
amazing.
call them whispering.
I'm sharing right now. We have the audio evidence on your website.
Mhm.
We have the video evidences also, and then we have also photo evidences. So
And these
it's,
come from
it's
all
very-
over. Sam Epislicki on Twitter shared a marvelous video where he called the Ponte in and asked them to blink their ship lights. And they did so 6 or 7 times on request. Could you please blink? Yes, and they flashed their lights. I think you've had an experience where you realized that there was a ship in the sky and you thought about them blinking at you, and they did. Am I right? Yeah.
That's correct.
So
yes.
it is a common thing, and we do describe that how to request a blink. That's the short term we gave it, a real scientific name for the, would you please flash your lights at us? And they also taught us a great deal about how they would hide, and that most every ship that enters our atmosphere that's a Star Nation craft can create its own cloud camouflage. We knew that for years until they told us that they can shape the cloud into any shape that they wish. And so, can they make a face out of it? Yes. Can they put 2 eyeballs in the sky looking at you? Yes. They can do all kinds of things, shaping clouds. We've had a number of Star Nations that have come in right one after another to the Sandia Mountain Information Station so quickly that some people have to essentially wait in line to be able to ask what they need to ask. And We have seen a number of the leading edges of ships sticking out of clouds that the pilot got a little sloppy with their cloud camouflage. And when that happens and we spot it, we send them a telepathic message immediately that says, hi, I'm Sue. I saw your ship up there. If you really wish to remain hidden, you might want to increase your cloud camouflage because your ship is showing. And the most normal response to that is a huge beef up instantly of the cloud, covering up the leading edge of the ship. And sometimes it's followed by a telepathic, thank you, tick, tick.
Oh, it's just so much that humanity can learn.
There is a lot. I mean,
There's a-
we've had the advantage of talking to them daily now since the fall of 2013. So come come the fall equinox, I will have been chatting with them for 8 years. Yeah,
Amazing.
it's a lot.
It's, it was nice what you done. Also, you did coloring book on your website also for the young children, as a beautiful way to introduce them very gently to the Ponti's
And we
foundation.
put real information into those books so that we know, and the Ponti knew, that really it's the next generation, the guys that are kids right now, that will, for the most part, be the young explorers to chat with and get to know more star nations than our generation. So they have created the factual coloring books that introduce not only the Ponti and what they look like and what their culture is like, but also other star nations and Sasquatch as well.
What you say is also also for the adults. I would say not just for the kids, but also the adults. It's a nice way to introduce the Star Nation in a very pleasant way,
Mhm,
you know. And
mhm.
it's just it's a nice way to break the ice, you
It is
know.
a
And
nice way to
it's
break the ice, and I guess this is the first time I've ever had my image on the cover of a coloring book.
no, yeah, I'm showing right now. You're at this. There's one in the forest where the Ponti shows a namaste sign,
Mhm.
and uh, and you're the lady there also giving a namaste.
Yeah, you see my little curly white hair.
That's correct. You're right there on the and it's so nice that you have this that information for the children and even for the adults. I mean, it's not just for the children, for the adults also. So
They
this is
have a number of them that are visiting children specifically and looking for the very, very talented children. And we've had uh, somewhere between 6 and 12 parents contact us saying, my 4-year-old is talking about you guys. What's going on? And we've had parents bring their children and come visit us to see if the Ponti are something to be afraid of or what's the story. And so when they come, we're just very, very upfront and honest with them about everything. And sometimes we'll sit down with a meal with them and they keep asking questions for hours and we keep answering. And what we don't know, we ask the Ponti guys and the gang underneath the mountain. And if they're around, they respond. And so, one way or another, we do try and get not only answers for the adults, but also the children also have their own questions. And um, we have we have seen children as young as 2.5 write out my name and the word Ponti, P apostrophe N T I, on a sheet of paper when these 2.5 to 3-year-olds can't even read and don't know their letters. I don't know how that happens, but we we have the evidence to prove it.
It's amazing.
It is. The whole thing is just drop your jaw. The kids sometimes talk with each other and compare notes if they're, say, over the age of 12 now.
That's
And
beautiful. It's a nice way. And also, it interesting to know that the Ponti have a nice relationship with the animal kingdom also,
oh yeah,
which, and you show pictures of them, which I'll show right now on the screen, that with different, for example, with horses,
they love our ponies. They absolutely they like our horses a lot, but the horses are awfully big and awfully powerful, and the ponies are more their size and very friendly. They have a love affair with our ponies. And here in the desert Southwest, there are wild Mustangs still, and they tend to be a smaller horse, and so they also enjoy the wild Mustangs that are here. Um, they've already spoken and shared with us images of them talking with the Elephant Nation as well as the Whale Nation.
that's
And
what I just
so
showed on the screen right now, the whale and the and what's interesting about what they mentioned about the whale is that um, they have the history of the planet within their songs. Can you elaborate on that? What the Pontish?
they, when star nations come to our world, um, like one of the planets orbiting, I think it's Sirius B, there's another legendary water world that also happens to have um, something that would be akin to the cetacean or whale dolphin species. And that nation comes to visit our whales here. And there are a number of nations who come to speak with the whales because they have a more detailed history of our planet than the land-based sentient nations do. And so they sing the oldest songs on this world that describe the changes in the culture of the whale nations due to the history of the planet and what's gone on. Uh, we do know that the Ponti not only have small skipper ships like the Oval, but they have very, very big hospital ships that are shaped like a long tube with a round end at each end. We call them cigar tubes because that's what good quality cigars would come in, as a tube like that. Um, the long tubes are large enough because some of them can be a mile long, but they're large enough to contain an entire pod of whales with all their water that's necessary. And so huge, huge. But they consider the whales on our world as one of the dominant sentient species in our oceans.
It's just
Not the only one, but one of the dominant ones.
amazing, and it's just amazing that the Ponti are able to to make contact with them. You know, it's just
Telepathic. They can talk to anybody who speaks any language on this planet and understand them, because when they speak with you and search your mind for what your intent is and what you're trying to say back to them and understand it, it's not necessarily your words that they're hearing out loud as much as the thoughts and images that go with what you're trying to communicate to them. That's what they're reinterpreting. So, do they speak, say, we'll make up something, do they speak Mandarin Chinese? No, but they understand it perfectly and they can communicate back to you in a way that um, is visual and or can understand enough to speak back and have your brain reinterpret it as Chinese. So you understand them, they understand you, but it's all because of the telepathic connection. If they didn't have that, then we'd be resorting to some kind of a universal translator, which hasn't been invented yet.
and you've done a wonderful document with Tiny that you posted on your website, a PDF, Telepathy 101 Primer, that people can download for free in many different languages. And And can you elaborate that the emphasis of doing the first 100 days? Can you elaborate on that for the listeners, the
I can.
importance?
When Tani starts new people who wish to improve their telepathic abilities, when she starts them onto their studies, she gives them with the Telepathy 101 primer the basic backbones of here's the brainwave state that you're most receptive in projecting and receiving in. They also project um, uh, the how can you project to have your telepathic ping be heard by another nation? What do you need to do to beef that up so that you aren't so faint because you're not used to doing it? They recommend the 100 days because, to be honest, as you begin to learn, it tires your brain out a lot. And you're creating new neural pathways to understand and work with this telepathy. But you can only learn so fast, and you need some time to assimilate it and build this pathway. At the very, very beginning, when you first start practicing telepathy, a number of people, not all, but a number of people report that the voice they hear back sounds like their own head thought voice instead of someone else's voice. And after about 30 days, suddenly they realize that they're interpreting what they're hearing telepathically a little bit differently. And the voice or the person that they're communicating with sounds different than themselves. And that process of being able to recognize a voice, like if you speak with somebody on the phone for the first time, you don't recognize their voice because it's new to you. But if you speak with them 2 or 3 times, you begin to recognize their actual voice and know who they are the minute they say hello. That same phenomena of being able to recognize instantly who you're talking to the minute they say hello happens with telepathy too. So I can tell you Drudy's voice in my head different than Tilcom's voice, different than Radar's voice, etc., etc. But that it takes the practice to do that. Not everybody needs the 100 days because a lot of folks that have dealt with um, meditation for a long time, or their own receiving and projecting abilities, um, have a much faster learning curve than the average Earth human does. But I think the 100 days is a good amount of time to practice before really testing the waters, because I tell you, the first time the Ponte communicate with you and give you kind of an intense download, boy, if you're not ready for it, it will exhaust your brain within seconds. You'll feel like you got to sit down, you want to take a nap, you want to go to sleep. Your brain feels like it's full of information and you're not exactly sure what all that is until you have some time to go to sleep and assimilate it. And then you wake up feeling like you're a little bit more normal. So if you ever wake up after a contact feeling exhausted and your brain hurts like you've learned a whole encyclopedia or a whole new language overnight, then plan on taking a few naps because you're going to need it. So,
Well,
other
thank you for
questions?
that.
That was a
No,
yeah.
it's just the listeners. You have wonderful pictures behind you. That, ladies and gentlemen, Sue Walker is a fantastic artist. She drew all the paintings you see behind her. And can you share with us in a few minutes, or 1 or 2 posters that you'd like to share with us that you've done recently that's at your heart that you'd like to share with us, and how you came about to draw this and what made
Oh,
you such a great, fantastic. It's just amazing. Your drawing is just so beautiful.
um, when Teocum first asked me to do his portrait,
I'm sorry, Sue. Tilcom, can you remind people Tilcom is the
Oh, Tilcom
commander?
is the man. Yeah, Commander Tilcom is the name of the manager of the Sandia Mountain Information Station. And sometimes you will hear us call him Sandia because that was the nickname we gave him in the first 2 months before we learned his real name, because his voice and his telepathic input came from beneath the mountain, and we knew that. But Tilcom had talked to us for a year and a half, and it was after we'd started the Twitter account at their request in June of 2015. They asked for the social. He asked. Tilcom asked for the social media account specifically because they wanted to teach and share. It was shortly after that, the fall of that year, that he came to me and he said, "We cannot provide photos, videos, or technology. It's against the treaty. However, there is absolutely nothing in the treaty that prevents a contactee from drawing the Ponti individuals they experience." And I said, "Are you asking me to draw you?" And he said, "Yes." And so I had not drawn a person or a person's face in 40 years. 40, not 4 years, 40 years. So I bought some pastel pencils and some paper and got some charcoal and started sketching. Um, and the very first sketches that I did of Commander Tilcom were very crude, Judy as well. I look back at those first sketches and I cringe because the detail level and the quality look like a school kid's to me. All right. But just like they assigned us a telepathy instructor, which was Tini, the gal that wrote the Telepathy 101 manual, Tilcom also assigned me an individual on his staff that was their art expert that collected quality art created by Earth humans from all over the planet. And so my drawing lessons came from that art expert whose name is Mim, M-I-M. And as I began to draw other staff members at their request always, Mim would help me hone my skill set and the detail level of the things that I was doing. And so if you compare the first Tilcom with, say, this one right back here, this is Tilcom right here. And this is Radar. This is their security chief Thought. And this is one of the trainees getting into the cookie jar. And this is PETA with the marshmallows. When I drew them, they all requested their poses, what they wanted their portrait to portray, and would help me with the details during the process. And when I finish a rough draft, I always set it up on my, I call it my art altar. It's a table in the living room that I pop the, just prop the sketches up on, so that when they come visit, if they come, they can see them and give me feedback. Is it right? Is it wrong? Does it need changes? What do you want done to it? And sometimes I think I'm done with it, and they come back with all kinds of changes. But my art lessons came from an extraterrestrial woman who's Ponti.
That's amazing. It's your artwork
It's
is
been
just
delightful, to be honest. That's part of my favorite part of knowing the Ponti.
it's spectacular. Really, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, you can go to a website. I mean, you also have T-shirts you sell on your website, right? Oh, the drawing that you
Yeah,
made.
we have what they call a Redbubble store,
Mhm.
and anything that we sell, whether it's the images of the Ponti, the Sasquatch, or products from the Redbubble store, any and all of those, the funds go directly to support Official First Contact. every bit of information you see on the official First Contact website, or we now have a nonprofit called the Infinite Voice Project. They have their own website. All of that information and those sites are done and maintained by volunteers from across the world.
It's just amazing. So there's a lot of people that are giving their free time for all of this. It's just
Right. A lot
amazing.
of people are supporting the background of official First Contact because they want to be involved. They want to do their part.
Nice.
And
It's
so
just, it's nice to see
we
that.
are grateful. Oh my gosh, we are so blessed and grateful to have such wonderful volunteers. It goes beyond words for me how generous people have been across the planet.
Well, that's to be a human legacy, showing that how magnificent we are when we all come together, right? It's
Right.
beautiful. It's
We're all right
as
minded. Yes.
yeah. I'm gonna ask you, so if you can elaborate on the, we haven't done the last few shows, but this one, archaeoplanetography, that's something that we
Oh,
talked about. If you just give a summary of
I
what.
can. All right. So back in 2014, I had a small, I had a G5 Apple product computer, and it died the bad death. And I ran down and got myself a small laptop, MacBook. I didn't even have it out of the box yet. I had arrived at the back at the house. I'd taken my purchase of my laptop. It was still in the box. I put it on the dining room table, and Commander Tealcom suddenly piped up. Hey, Sue, do me a favor. I want you to download Google Earth. What? And then he went silent. I went, well, that was weird. He's never asked anything like that before. But okay, I guess. Huh. What's he up to? So I took it out of the box. I fired it up. I followed all the instructions. And the very first thing I downloaded was Google Earth. And I brought up the first screen and looked like everybody does. The first place I wanted to look to see was, where do I live? So I was looking at the satellite view of Albuquerque, and Commander Tilcom piped back up again. He said, turn it upside down. And I said, say what? He said, turn it upside down. Turn the image upside down. You always look at it with north at the top. Turn it upside down. And he went silent again. And I went, what is he up to? And I was looking and looking and looking at the image, at the landscape, and an upside down view of Albuquerque, because I figured out how to turn it upside down, and trying to figure out what he wanted me to see, when I realized that there was an outline in the upper corner of the satellite view that looked like a profile. Only it wasn't the profile of a person, it was a profile of a cow. And I thought, who would put a cow in the landscape? What is this? And then I realized that it wasn't something like a corn maze where a farmer tills up a field in a pattern. We've seen those things before. But this image of this profile of a cow was almost 6 miles by 6 miles in size. And it was made out of pine and desert scrub and colors in the landscape. And I thought, well, that's really weird. What is this? And Tilcom said, this is archaeoplanetography. And it was such a big word, I thought, what is it? Essentially, long story short, there are images placed into Earth's landscape that all other star nations visiting our world know how to read, except for us. We don't know our own planet. And those images can be as large and larger than a continent, or as small as a few meters in size, or a few feet in size. And so Tilcom began in late fall 2014, spending time one-on-one with me, teaching me how to see and how to understand not only the individual images in the landscape, but also the historic murals. And some of them wrap themselves around the planet. They're so large. When I started studying all of this, I had to, in my own head, look at, is this real or is this pareidolia? What is this? And because not all of the images in the landscape are animals or people, some of them mark very important things like, oh, let me give you a for instance. Down in Mexico, underground, there is what's known as the Cave of Giant Crystals. Do you know that place? Where the crystals are 8 feet across and meters and meters and meters, or yards and yards and yards long. That cave was accidentally found, broken into, but it's been since resealed, so the crystals continue to grow. However, I can point to exactly where it is because it's marked on the landscape. So there are markers for things that you can find underground. There are markers in archeoplanetography for identification of natural portal locations. The ancient portals are all marked. There are indications because of the images in the mural where the jurisdiction of one star nation stops and another jurisdiction area begins. So the boundaries and borders of historically the star nations that have been prevalent or dominant in a particular area of the planet or the ocean. So we have quite literally images of star nation peoples that have been visiting our world etched into our landscape that you can freely see if you know how to view them. But it takes some training in order to see that. So I put up a couple of beginner lessons on archeoplanetography. Tilcom defined it as a dominant historic information system embedded within the landscape of the planet, portraying the dominant species influencing that area. That's the literal definition he gave me of what is archeoplanetography. So the images in the landscape, if you haven't seen them,
Yeah,
you can go to my YouTube channel and it just says Sue Walker and you can see it that way. Oh, good.
On the share screen right now, I'm showing the viewers right now. But the latest one was the Nazca Queen.
Oh yeah,
lion.
Yeah.
Should I just roll it here?
Just roll it. It's just a couple of minutes long.
Yeah, just a minute.
I can't see it from here, but you will see me outline the lion first. And I stumbled onto the head of the lion and then the front chest area and followed the lines in the landscape down the back and was looking for the feet and how to do the feet. And I first drew some lines that didn't make sense and went, okay, I'm not following the right lines here somehow. And then you'll see how I corrected myself. And after drawing the lion, I realized that there was a face of a person very close by. So I drew and outlined that face and the images around it or connected to it, or the lines connecting to it, and realized that it was the face of a person with a slightly elongated skull, like we see in the Paracas skulls of Peru. We know that star nation of the elongated skull folks as the Ia, E-A. So the Ia, and this individual looked female to me. So I called her the Nazca Queen on her throne, and she appeared to have the back of her hand out, petting this lion underneath the chin, like you might take your fingers and squish a kitten under the chin. And the lion appeared to be liking it. Now, why I called it a lion, and we don't officially know of any lions in South America. It may have been a jaguar, but it appeared to be a large cat. I will put it that way. And it was just part of the murals of Nazca. So the other lines etched into the landscape of Nazca may be another take on archeoplanetography. I'm not sure. I'm not sure who instructed somebody to put the lines of Nazca in where they are. I think it most likely was more than 5,000 years ago, and more than likely more than 10,000 years ago. I don't know the actual age, and I don't know if we've actually tested it. That's a good question. So, but the APG image, you can also find archeoplanetography images in desert varnish in the landscape down here in the desert Southwest. You can find archeoplanetography information on the ceiling of caves. But there is more information in the form of images and murals and other symbols in the landscape than what you know. All of the land-based Ponte managed facilities are marked. If Star Nation has an underground facility in, say, Timbuktu, it's marked. So once you know how to read the archeoplanetography system, then you know how to and where to go to find the closest ancient portal so that you can use the energy from it to hop from point A to point B.
It's amazing. So much to learn.
There's a lot there.
A lot to
And
learn.
all of that first stuff was taught to me by Tilcom. And then every once in a while, they nudge me to go ahead and get onto Google Earth and want to teach me something new. And so I keep learning. I don't know it all, but I'm willing to share with anybody who wants to learn what they taught me.
No, it's just so much. Well, Sue, you shared a lot. We've been at it for an hour and a half right now. There's so much
Yes, and I have
knowledge.
another guest that I need to
It's
get to
very
go.
nice. So thank you so much for sharing with us the latest
Oh, you're very
information.
welcome.
And
Very
I'd like to ask if you can share with us usually there's a way that the Ponte have a parting goodbye. And what I'll do is that I'll put up the image before you say it so people can follow. A beautiful image
yes,
of Judy that you have to
yes,
painted. And
yep.
let me just share this on screen first, and then you can actually share with us the parting that usually the Ponte share with us. And
Tilcom taught us this sharing of a traditional saying or phrasing that they use when saying goodbye to somebody, especially if it's another spiritual person. And it comes with hand gestures because some people are gestural nations. So the hand gesture is a cupped hand like this, and it's, I hold the light for you. And then you take one hand and you make a little tube or a circle, and like you breathe in or suck up through a straw, I breathe in the light with you. We exhale our light together. And so you're exhaling like this with your hands. And raise your hands and share light breath with all. So I hold the light for you. I breathe in the light with you. We exhale our light together and share light breath with all.
well, that's awesome.
Wear your day with ease. That's
Well,
the
thank you so much, Sue Walker, for sharing with us the updates. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your service to humanity. And in the description box, I have all the links to your website, to your YouTube videos. And ladies and gentlemen, that's all thanks to Walker for service to humanity. And this is just the beginning. There's a lot more to share, and hopefully you can share with
There's
us.
more coming. We'll be happy to share with you anything that you would like to learn. We're here to teach. Otter and I, my spouse and I, have both taken on this mission as something that we feel is extremely paramount and primary. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself.
You too.
Namaste.
Namaste. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.